then Viviana,
Which is here?
right there.
Okay.
To spread out the space on that.
Yeah, you might as
Pop in
well.
a Jordan's chair.
Yeah, so yours.
I don't know why it's bothering me so much tonight.
Did you be Joe?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. Okay. So it is 7:02. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the land acknowledgements. As we gather here today, we acknowledge we are on Treaty 6 territory in the homeland of the Métis. We pay our respect to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. Just some late items to add to the agenda. 10.2, we're going to be adding Trevor. We're going to formally appoint him to his position. And for anyone who hasn't met Trevor, Trevor is our new CFO, and so welcome. And I hope that is it 1 week roughly now that you've been here?
Yeah, a week and a day, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate that. Is there any other agenda items that need to be added before we adopt the agenda?
Yeah, there's a few things I'd like to add. First one being municipal COVID restriction guidelines, just conversation around that. Another one, snow removal on fire hydrants. And MRS eligibility declaration to NSAD, municipal revenue sharing.
Yeah, and then for myself, just the tourism board quarterly installment, although I've already emailed Heidi, but just to create awareness for the rest of council around that.
So this is on the agenda or not on the agenda?
Put it on the agenda, like third, second piece.
Okay, sorry. So just I was just writing down math. What was the item that you're going to be talking about?
Tourism, Woodland and Waterways, Visitor Center, inquiry.
Okay.
And I'll move to adopt the agenda with those additions unless there's any others.
Okay, so let me just clarify. So 10.3 will be the municipal COVID restrictions. 10.4 will be the snow removal around fire hydrants. 10.5 will be the municipal revenue service or sharing. And 10.6 will be conversation around the tourism visitor center. Is there any other additions? Okay, excellent. So seconder for?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion to adopt the agenda is carried. We move on to 3.1, which is the motion to approve meeting minutes from January 25th, 2022.
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any other questions, comments, concerns? So motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Hadiski. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion is carried. We move on to, so there's, I see delegations here, but it's under correspondence, so is that just being moved to a different one? Is that why? Do we know why that's there?
Just because there's a request.
Okay, got it. All right, so we move on to 5.1.1, which is the Shock Trauma Air Rescue Foundations. And this came up on the last council meeting, and we have, I believe it's Tammy and...
Tammy, which is this one?
Yeah.
Thank you. And then Carrie. This one?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hi Carrie, hi Tammy, can you guys hear us?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. It's nice to meet you, and thank you so much for being here tonight. I'll pass the floor.
Well, thank you very much. Now, I am just seeing if Carrie is on yet.
Yep, he
Carrie,
is.
are you there?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
I can hear
Okay,
you.
I can see you now. Sorry. So I just want to say thank you very much to everyone for having us and engaging with us, and thank you for reading our letters. Really, it's quite important for us here at STARS to be able to communicate and engage with our communities, and as it's been tough for everybody through COVID times, it's tough for us to get out and see you guys and hear when everyone has questions or comments or concerns or anything. So we love that we can still have this kind of meeting and be able to do something this way. So thank you very much. You know, the reason that you guys got the letter was because we've sent that out to all of our municipalities in Saskatchewan. And that's been happening for the last 2 years that we've been sending a letter out. For the last just about 10 years, we've been sending out information to RMs and that. And so then we started going into the towns and cities and villages and that sort of thing. And so, and the response has been really great from a number of different communities. And we're so appreciative to have the support from everyone. So that's kind of where the letter has stemmed from. And then the next part of it was that we wanted to share and bring awareness to communities on that we are really just a very small part in the chain of survival. In your communities, your fire departments, your EMS, the RCMP, police, hospitals, everyone is a part of us supporting and being there for the next patient. And in the letter that I provided, I don't know if you guys were able to click onto the videos. So were you guys able to watch the videos, or did you want me to show you the one video of the Emergency Link Center?
I seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had the agenda items are set up for us for a few days, so I think everyone, if they've wanted to and had the opportunity, have already. But thank you.
Okay. No, perfect. Just wanted to make sure, because that's a really important video that really showcases on how it all starts right from the very beginning. So today Carrie is on as one of our air medical crew members. And so he's really the person that you probably all want to talk to and ask some questions and engage in conversation. And he's going to be able to share with you the importance of the behind the scenes of what STARS does, and that we're really more than just the red helicopter.
Yeah, hi everyone. Kerry Service here. I'll just give a little brief story of who I am and my take on what STARS does in the province in general, and specifically in your community. Some things that Tammy and I wanted to highlight was if you had a chance to look at that Link Center video, it talks about how it's part of the chain of survival and how it links everybody together. And one thing I really wanted you to understand was prior to STARS coming to the province, many hospitals and physicians in rural hospitals would see the need for a specific patient that they might be dealing with, and saw that maybe this patient had to go to Saskatoon or Regina and have a higher level of care, or they needed tests, or they needed more treatment, or they needed a team to come in to, a critical care team to come in and look after this patient and get them to a tertiary care center. So prior to STARS coming to the province, so, we're more than 10 years ago, and as a paramedic in Saskatchewan, I'm coming up to 30 years of service in Saskatchewan, so just shy of 30 years. I can tell you, I've worked ground ambulance in a lot of communities prior to STARS, and we would get that call, and we would go get that patient. We would take the patient to Saskatoon or Regina, and often those receiving centers didn't know the patient was coming, didn't know any of the details, didn't know what was done prior. So what STARS did, in conjunction with the province, said, yeah, we see the need, but we also see the need for better care and better use of resources. So they use the transport physician. There's one number to call right now. So L'Orange is used to calling Saskatchewan Air Ambulance, for example. And I still work with Sask Air Am. I've flown with them for 19 years now. And, they're used to that. So sometimes a call comes through just to AirAm, Saskatchewan AirAm, and they do that. But more often than not, they call the red patient line, which goes through the link center, and this sets up a transport physician that's listening, a receiving physician is decided on, they talk physician to physician. They often discuss care that could happen in La Ronge or any rural hospital prior to any team getting there to transport that patient. As well as the transport team is listening, whether it's Saskatchewan AirAm or it's STARS. We're listening into a bit of the preamble and the care that's going on, and maybe some of the results the sending physician is getting with their equipment and their testing capabilities. So we have a good idea of what we're going for. So that's part of why we reach out to these communities, because some of the things that really help is that transport physician determining, this patient is best served by sending a fixed wing in there. We'll get ground ambulance to pick up the fixed wing crew, take them over to the hospital, stabilize the patient, transport out to airplane back to Saskatoon. On occasions, because La Ronge is far from Saskatoon for a helicopter, on occasions, and Tammy has the numbers in the last 5 years, I think, that the helicopter has flown to La Ronge or AirRonge or Wahakon. But the key point I wanted to add there was the transport physician, and I'll just give one very, very crucial example that happened in the last little while. Now, we were probably the early stages of COVID when that was happening, and your community there in La Ronge was actually the first patient to be intubated in this province was in La Ronge. And I know that for a fact because I was there, and I was happened to be working fixed wing that day, and it was the STARS transport physician that was on the phone with La Ronge and the other community where the patient was coming from. And they were talking to ground ambulance paramedics. They were talking to nursing staff outside of La Ronge where this patient was coming out of. They were going to ground this patient into La Ronge. And then we were able to time it just right and get into the hospital in La Ronge. And back then, the theory was intubate early and intubate all patients that are COVID positive. So this poor fellow was a known COVID positive patient that was having great difficulty and required intubation. So that goes to show, I hope that shows you a little bit about where this transport physician really plays a key role. They were able to speak to ground ambulance nurses, doctors, and then come up with a plan. Now, they didn't fly with us. That's another thing that the STARS transport physicians will do, is they will get on that airplane or helicopter, and they'll fly out with us to some of these more challenging type of calls if it's needed. And I don't have the stats on how often they do come and fly with us, but we're in constant contact with them as part of the program. So on every single patient that we transport, it's just policy that we touch base after we assess a patient and let them know what's going on. In case the physician, the transport physician has any questions or ideas, sometimes we can get a little busy, hands-on, and a little bit focused on things, and it's nice to have somebody outside of the room thinking big picture on patients that are critically ill. So I wanted to highlight that point with the transport physician. And first responders and the ground ambulance do call them, even with patients prior to coming into the La Ronge Hospital. So I just wanted to highlight that sort of thing.
So Carrie, I'm just gonna jump in here really quick, just because we're going on about 10 minutes, and typically it's a 5-minute presentation.
Sure.
So if it's okay, I'm gonna just quickly speak. I'm a medevac pilot as well, so I do appreciate and I do understand this probably a bit more than maybe some people do at the table. So I'd like to open up the table some questions so that they can ask for you guys, just because we do have to be conscious of time at this for this delegation. Does anyone at the table have any questions for Star Wars here?
I don't know.
No? I have a quick question for you. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Viviana.
No, none for me.
Okay. I just have a quick question. I just see the stats here. La Ronge, 546 requests, and there was 8 star missions. I know that obviously a lot of it connects, and even more so on a bigger scale sometimes. But just for my understanding, and if just when I think about donations and everything moving forward, like helicopters coming all the way to La Ronge, it's something that we don't typically see because we do a lot of fixed wing, and we have a large enough helicopter fleet up here as well that would be activated by PAC should it be necessary when there's no landing strip close enough available, and especially with the geographical nature of the north, it's kind of arranged in that way. So I'm just seeing here, so the 546 requests versus the 8 flights that actually happened through STARS, were the rest of those requests filtered through AirAm and then the various government agencies that, like for myself, I mean, we're contracted separately. Is that who has done the rest of those requests?
So I don't know exactly how the stats are kept on that, but that 546 that you asked about, that's the number of calls that came through the link center, and then a transport physician would have been involved in that and determined what's the need that's required. What's the request coming out of La Ronge about? Is it a medical? Is it a trauma? Are they looking for perhaps just some advice as to what to do next for this patient? It could have been a 30-second call. It could be a call that lasted 2 hours, and the transport physician was assisting in a treatment plan for a sending physician at La Ronge. It also could be a consultation that needed to occur, and they're wondering whether this patient should fly to Prince Albert or Saskatoon. I'm thinking of a neuro type of incident where they need to have a CT scan of the head. They're doing quite well, and the transport physician might say, okay, this sounds like this could be a basic level provider, Medivac out of La Ronge. If there's one there, we could do that. If it's a more critical patient, we'll send Sask AirAm. If they're busy, both of their crews are out and we don't have this other one, we have to consider rotor wing. So there are so many variables going on there for 546 requests and 8 flights with a helicopter. I could probably talk for many more of your precious minutes, but I won't. But those are some of the things that immediately come to my mind that could have happened.
Okay, my last question for you. So what is the dollar amount requested, and what's the dollar amount typical for the size of our municipality? And are you also reaching out to our neighboring tri-community partners as well?
Yes to both. Yes, we are reaching out to everyone. So every town, resort village, northern village, hamlet, I know every municipality in Saskatchewan received a letter from me. And in regards to the dollar amount, really it varies all the time. So it's hard for me to tell you. This is what I can share is that honestly, any dollar is helping. A flight is anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 or more. It depends on what the nature of the injury is, and if STARS has to fly there, right? So we're not asking for 5,000, we're not asking for 10,000, we're asking whatever your budget can allow. And if that's $100, then that's 100 needles. And that's kind of how we put it, We do have in the letter that it says, you know, an approximate of $2 per capita. If that works for you guys, great. And if it doesn't, it's okay. Whatever would work is greatly appreciated.
Okay, are there any other questions on the table for our delegation tonight? Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate you guys' time, and thanks for all of your information.
Thank you very much, you guys. Have a great evening. Stay
Right.
safe.
You as well.
Thank you, bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, do we need a formal resolution whether we're going ahead with this, or can this be pushed to budget?
I'd like to see it pushed to budget.
Okay, perfect. Can we get a motion for that on the table?
I move that we, move the Stars Foundation, request for funding to the budget set out this March. I think we're doing the budget.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Vettery, seconded by Councillor Reese. Any other comments or questions further to that?
Well, you know, I think we should try and target close to the $2, you know, and see if that fits into the budget.
Yeah.
I think it's important service that they do to our community. You know, it's you know, when Stars first came out, you know, we just basically everybody thought, well, you know, they just have a big chopper that stops at an accident scene and picks people up, and since then they've become more entwined in the rest of the emergency service and coordination. So it's become more important to the province, and I think we should see what we can do to accommodate that.
I agree with Joe, you know, and this is a service provided to all of Saskatchewan, so to help out everybody in Saskatchewan, I think is a great idea.
Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion's carried to bring that to budget conversations. All right, we move on to 5.2.1, which is the 2022 SUMA Convention and Trade Show. Email from SUMA, which is dated January 24th. For registration. Heidi, did you want to speak a little bit further about, so does this require each one of us to go on and register separately, individually, or what is?
I believe that Amanda will have all of that. So we just need to know who all wants to go.
Got it. Okay, and just as a reminder for me, what is the cost per person? Just because I see the $50 cancellation fee, but I don't
know offhand.
Don't know. Okay.
It's a few $100 a person.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't
Plus
have
hotels
that.
Okay.
I thought we all had blanket approval a few council meetings ago when I brought it up. I'd have to look it up, but it is in the minutes somewhere. And Amanda, I think that you had made hotel reservations already, or I might be wrong.
That is
Correct me if I am.
They were
That's correct.
summer with Vanessa.
So we blocked them, but no, I was just curious. I don't because it's in our budget for everyone to go. Just I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
Yeah, in the past, I mean, just basically everybody put their name forward who wants to go,
Mm-hmm.
and then administration booked them into the convention, and also looked at availability of rooms and booked those as well for us.
So just by straw vote here, who's wanting to go and who's available to go?
All these.
Okay, so Joe.
I'm planning on going.
Okay.
I plan on attending as well.
Okay.
Plan on attending if things work out for me.
Okay. So kind of just you still have a couple things that need to.
Well, it's my job. I don't know if I have a job still yet.
Yeah, me too.
Funding.
Abby, are you planning to?
I'm gonna try, but it's a little dicey.
Okay. When's the deadline for registration? Do we know?
How about if we send out an email with all that information?
Sure, that'd be
Yeah.
great. But for now, you can put Councillor Radisky, Councillor Reese, Councillor Clausen as confirmed, and
Okay.
then Councillor Vedri, Councillor Bashar, and myself we're maybes until I think we're gonna have to find out when that the deadline is,
Yep.
and then that way you can let us know when that is,
Okay.
and then we have to kind of say yea or nay on that, and then and Councillor McPhail is confirmed as well.
I have it.
Perfect. Okay, Okay, so we just need essentially a resolution on that to state that those four for sure, and then you're gonna come back with the remaining three to confirm. Someone just wants to remove that.
I'll move to approve those councillors for Summit Convention.
Okay, great, do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Clausen, seconded by Councillor Guthrie. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. We move on to 5.2.2, which is the email from Sask Health Authority, dated January 26th. And this came from I'm just because these emails come through on a quite regular basis. Is this just as a receive and file?
Yeah.
Okay. So does anybody have any questions about that? No? Alright.
Move to receive and file.
Okay, seconder.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Clausen, seconded by Councillor Bashara. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, motion's carried. Move on to committee reports. Move on to the tracker. Heidi, did you want to speak on behalf of the tracker?
No, as you can see, or I say no and then I continue talking, that's not very good. So you can see that we're moving along quite well, getting lots of stuff cleared off of everyone's plate, and if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. And one thing that I will note, you probably noticed on the agenda that there's a new format for the staff reports. I hope you guys enjoy those better. We saw that the staff reports were taking up a lot of time for staff to write, and I'm sure a lot of time for council to read. So what we're trying to do is just give you the information you need and not a whole bunch of jibber jab behind it.
I noticed them and they're lovely.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. So this will just be a receive and file.
I move to receive and file.
Seconder?
Second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Guthrie, seconded by Councillor Disco. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion is carried. Move on to HR downloads.
So I have Blake Fuchster on the line, he's our business development rep.
Okay.
So he's just gonna kind of go over the program a bit. I'll
Okay.
share a screen with us.
So just for a bit of background, so last meeting Amanda brought this forward to council to look at bringing this on for a 2-year, I guess, membership, if you want to say, to help streamline some of our HR services. And Blake, are you there?
Need to unmute.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Hi Blake, thank you for being here tonight. So this was presented to council 2 weeks ago, and some council members did have some questions, so this is just an opportunity for us to ask further questions for anyone that was still on the fence for moving ahead with this. So did you have a very brief sort of presentation to show here, or are you good with just going ahead with some questions from council?
I got my screen shared here, but if we want to go right with questions, let's do it.
Okay, awesome. So if anyone has any questions for Blake, the floor is yours.
I had a couple of questions, but I actually found all the answers. I did a little bit of research on this, so I'm good.
Okay. Blake, is there, in a very Cliff Notes way, just for time of the essence here, is there anything specific within HR downloads that you'd like to really highlight that sets you apart? I know one of the main questions that came out of this was about safety and about our data moving forward from here. Did you want to just give a quick brief highlight of what sets you guys apart?
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, we have been around for quite a while, over 12 years, partnering with Manulife. I can tell you from like a security standpoint, same thing as like online banking. It's 256-bit encryption. Don't know too much about the IT side, but we use Amazon servers. They're here in Canada. We don't know where they're located. But yeah, basically it's all cloud-based, right? So no matter where you are, you're gonna have your own unique login. You can log in wherever you are, and you're gonna access your account. And you can pretty much store whatever you want. I know a big thing when Amanda and I were talking was they're using like hard copies, so you can now store a lot of records here. It's really up to you what you want to store. But then the best part about it is we're content driven. So we're gonna give you all the documents you need, legislatively specific, have your name and logo. I know a big thing was the training portion. I think there was a couple questions like on some courses like WMIS if it's certified, because they are all e-modules, but we make it look at house. So, you know, there would be scenario questions. WMIS, to answer that, it's about 90%. It is legislatively specific. We're just not going to be on site. You don't know where the hazards or chemicals are. So you just have to show your employees where they are. But you do have a certificate, and that's good to go.
Okay.
But in terms of functionality, if you want to see anything like how you can assign documents, training here, so you can get all that real-time reporting. The main thing I find here for managing your company is just like that support in the actual content. I think being able to track and manage everything, that's gonna be great and help kind of give that peace of mind. But in terms of like the content, it's gonna be the HR, performance reviews, all that, but also health and safety, which I know is huge. But in terms of questions, or does anyone want to see a certain service or products?
Nothing from me. Anybody else specific?
So, one question, how many municipalities in Saskatchewan are you dealing or using your services?
It's hard to say. Let me see. I'll look it up. Due to confidentiality, I can't really give any sort of names. But
Oh, I'm not asking for names, I'm just asking for
yeah,
roughly how many.
I'll figure something out here.
Do you have ballpark, Blake? It doesn't have to be too specific.
I'm just going through the database right now, so I can give a quick idea. I don't know off the hand, but
Okay.
just a second here.
Is this something that,
More than 10, more than 100, or?
is this something?
It looks like, yeah, over 50. Then I have to go to the next page.
Okay,
Seems like less than 100, but over 50.
Okay.
okay, that gives me an idea.
And that's in Saskatchewan. I can tell you, like, because we work with every province, but pretty similar. Just legislation is always a little bit different. It's just that it's always because you have a lot of moving parts, right? You're gonna have different departments. I don't know if we've talked. I know Amanda and I talked, but you might have different user licenses. You might have different departments. They're able to access this, but they're not going to be able to amend documents. You can have certain users that can do that, but they're able to track their employees. They can onboard. They can send out their training courses that need to get done, their documents that need filled out or signed off, and then Amanda can kind of oversee it from a bird's eye view. But there's lots of different ways to use it. Big thing is too, is we're always going to give you that support. You have an account manager. I know we're looking at the 2-year package because you do give a huge discount there, but you have your account manager, make sure you get the most out of this. You have that live HR advice as well. They're amazing because it's unlimited. We're the first company to offer this, but it's incredible, especially with COVID or anything from termination to performance review. You can call in. It's an extension of your team. It's a full HR department, but we cover all their salaries.
Go ahead, Councillor.
So yeah, a quick question here. So if we get the 2-year package and go with that, what happens after 2 years if we decide not to go ahead with another renewal of the subscription? What happens to everything that we put on there?
Well, there's gonna be a lot of sad faces over here, but everything does go back to you. In terms of documents, right? Like we have over 3,000 documents. You can theoretically download 3,000 documents. They're on a Word document. They're gonna be yours forever.
Okay.
Things like employee records, we're always gonna export that. We're gonna get that back to you. Might be Excel spreadsheet. Typically, we put it in the same format. Where if you're gonna use another system, it's gonna be very similar. So you can just import that data.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other further questions for Blake? Okay, Blake, thank you very much for your time tonight. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Appreciate everyone. Take care.
Take care.
So the ask is to approve this for 2 years. So leave it to the table to decide what how you guys would like to move forward.
I'll move to approve the purchase and implementation of HR downloads for the duration of 2 years at a cost of $7,452.90.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Just a question here,
So just one sec. So motion by Councillor Bashar, seconded by Councillor McPhail, and open for comment.
I was just thinking, you know, why don't we just try it for a year and rather than go on a 2-year package? If you don't like it, if you like it in a year, you just renew. And in the meantime, we get a report from staff, how much is being used. You know, we lock ourselves in for 2 years, we're paying twice as much. Let's just find out how it's working, how much is being used, track it, report to council. If it works over the year, then it'll
Well,
be there next year.
Just point of interest is that there's a massive discount, so you're not paying double.
$2,200.
Yeah, so you're saving 2,200 by, cause yearly, what's the yearly?
It would be double, like it would be almost 10,000, I think.
Right, so it's, for me, if you're gonna invest in it, then you invest in it for the whole time, cause you can save it and then you can continue it. But, I mean, it's up to you, council, how you guys wanna proceed.
Well, and that's usually how they get you into it, and that's why I asked if we didn't like it after 2 years, can we get all our stuff back, right?
Perhaps the question is, what is the contract that we're signing on to, and after a year, if it doesn't fit, can we cancel the second year at just the cost of the first year? Like the full cost of the first year?
I can ask.
I can answer that actually.
Yep.
Go ahead.
If you sign on for 2 years, it's a 2-year contract, and that is why you have the discount. So that's just simply the way that goes. I can say, because I have used this program for several years in several of the communities that I've been in, and a year would be fantastic if you guys would move forward with that. 2 years would be phenomenal, because the program is so huge and there's so much stuff. And me being the type of person that I am, I do download everything and save it, because I never know if that program, if council will approve it down the road. So just to do all of that does take time. And to get it all set up and everything for your community, and to get people to do the training. And the big thing is, like I said, I've written many policy binders through HR downloads, and I keep all the information. Like, I don't put it up on the cloud. It all goes on the town server, but it takes a while.
Councillor Clausen, did you have something?
She answered
Okay.
what I was gonna ask.
Alright, so do we have any motions on the table? Or sorry, we do have a motion on the table. Any other further comments, questions? Right now the motion reads that we're going ahead as presented and moving with a 2-year contract of $7,452.90. Okay, so we'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. We move on to 6.1.3, which is the Highway 102 update. As this comes up. And Brianna, are you on the line?
I am, yes, your worship. I just want to speak to that this is the Highway 102 report is very much in its infancy, where they are in the information gathering stage. But is there any questions about my report?
Go ahead.
I can't recall off the top of my head, what was the expectation for completion of this? Was it like a 1 year or 2 year process?
So this will be completed in approximately 6 to 8 months, depending on how long the engagement process will take. I know it was put off quite a few times just due to what things were going on within the community. So that is why it's taken until now to actually start, and I've been taking the lead on this project.
Great.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Bashara?
Yes, it does, thank you.
What is the cost associated? Or is that something that was already determined previously?
It's already been
It was budgeted for.
I can't remember exactly the
The
figure.
cost, I believe, is $98,000 in some.
Okay.
It's budgeted already.
Okay. Any other questions? Go
I'll
ahead.
move that the council review and file the Highway 102 Economic Corridor Plan with Crosby and Hanna and Associates, Wallace Insight Economic Development Firm, and VCL Engineering.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Radisky, seconded by Councillor Reese. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. We move on to the Tri-Community Survey, which I did provide a little bit further information to you guys this afternoon. But Brianna, did you want to speak a little bit further?
No, I believe if there's any questions, I believe you probably would be the better one to answer them, but
Okay.
if anyone has any questions.
So I'll just add a little bit of verbal report on top of this report that's been presented to council. Thank you, Brandon, for doing that. So not this past weekend, but the weekend before, Councillor Reese and myself, as well as Brianna, attended the initial conversations around this tri-community, what we're sort of calling a friendship agreement. That's just, I'll say, the working title. For us to figure out how we can better cooperate with each other, how we can kind of communicate better. And so it was a very off the wall type of meeting where it was sort of anything goes. It was very, parts of it were very raw, just to sort of break down those barriers. But I think we're at the very infant stages of that. This has now gone back to all of our communities. The next step that we sort of decided would be really important for us would be to figure out if this is actually what our residents want us to do, because we do represent our residents. So as you can see, there's a very brief survey with 3 questions that we've compiled just to see just what the importance of this is going to be for us and for other communities, and we felt we needed to bring this back to the table first and foremost, to make sure that we can get approval to send out the survey first. And we'll also be waiting to hear from our other community partners, the Northern Village of Orange and the Lac-Orange Indian Band, just to make sure that there is approval for that as well. It'll be happening in a couple ways. One, it'll go through our social channels. One will go on our newsletter, which we mail it already. And then people can bring those surveys in and be collated there. From there, then it'll be packaged and presented back to council so that we can really have an understanding. And for an incentive, there's a $100 gift card that's being sent out. This is all being covered from this grant. Nothing is going to will cost the town any money at this time. And there's potential future funding that's also going to be put on the table for potential facilitators for these meetings to happen. Some of the conversations that also happen would be little things like having 3 meetings a year where each municipality hosts an evening, sort of breaking the bread, so that we can have conversations. And because, I mean, truth be told, some of the conversations that did happen at that meeting a couple weekends ago was that some people didn't even know what councillors are on council tables and what boards are part of boards. So it's really just an opportunity for us to, again, sort of network and also for us to grow stronger together. So that's sort of the very brief of it. Is there any questions that you guys have, and does anybody have any opposition to us moving forward with the survey?
I mean, it's a good starting point. I mean, you know, everybody's speaking the same language, and there's still those big wedges that, you know, drive, you know, challenges between communities. And, you know, the biggest one I think of is, you know, we're talking about a multiplex, and, you know, and how our neighbors buy into that. And, you know, those are the big decisions that are going to test this system, whether we're all cooperating, and the importance of, you know, having that service available to everybody in the area, you know. But I think it's got to start somewhere. You got to, you know, get the language right and get the, you know, everybody respectful around the table. And I think it's a good idea to you know, to have this 3 meetings, and that's, I think it's going to help to you know, for the buy-in of communities, and it'll show, you know, that we're acting in good faith. So that's good.
And sort of just to grow on from that, so that initial weekend, it took almost, I think, about 4 months to try to plan, because it was just so hard to coordinate schedules. The next sort of steps that the facilitators see as moving forward, and the mediators in this, is that they would bring the CAOs and the executive director together to figure out what sort of, you know, is working together already, the MOUs, the different things that we've already agreed on as different partnerships. And then from there, growing that conversation to being bigger. So, you know, there was essentially three delegates from each community at that first one, and then eventually we want to bring more and more people, invitations to all councillors from all. And I think the initial meetings are going to have some sort of facilitator there, because you just don't know what kind of emotions are going to come out of those meetings, and it'd be really great to have that funding that we already have in place from the community wellness branch to help facilitate some of those conversations, because they could be quite difficult, and we recognize that. So those are sort of be the next steps after, you know, going through the survey, seeing if this is what the residents want, and then sort of getting some feedback too, so that we can kind of go forward. So yeah, so what I think essentially I'm asking for tonight is that council is willing to move ahead with this survey.
I'd like to put a motion forward that council approve the release of a survey created by tri-community leaders in an effort to obtain resident input on the importance of collaboration between the three communities on various initiatives through our town Facebook page and newsletter.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Vettery. Does anybody have any further questions, comments? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
I'm holding on.
I just like to say, you know, I've seen lots of great work happening in the homeless strategy committee of the communities coming together. So that's just an example of things that can happen in the future. So it's been great work so far.
Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, so we'll call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion's carried. We move on. Sorry, Brianna, just really quick thing. Just before that goes ahead, we just have to make sure that that is approved by the village and by, okay, awesome, thank you so much. Okay, we move on to the facility rental agreement and town COVID policy. Is Connor here tonight? Oh yes, he is, there you go.
Yes, I'm here.
Alright, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Just referring to the current town COVID-19 policy as well as the facility rental agreements, the same one that we discussed previously with the curling club. Just looking for council support to confirm that the full-time staff at the arena are permitted to support both of those, one policy and two, the facility rental agreements.
This kind of leads into what I was asking for as another agenda item for talking about COVID policies and such. If
yeah, I understand that the COVID policy may change based on some news that came out today. At which point the staff of the arena would still be expected to uphold and enforce any changes to that. But as the policy stands today, just looking for your support for our staff to enforce that.
Sorry, continue, Councillor.
no, that answers it. We can discuss the rest of it further, I guess. Yeah, that's good for now.
Okay, so as of this very moment, it would just be as it already states in our policy, and then we might be talking about it differently depending on how it goes down later in the agenda. But can you just give me a quick update just for information here? Did everything get sorted with the user rental agreement with specifically the curling club?
Yes.
Okay, okay, great. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Tessier?
And this is essentially just saying that the town will provide a staff to check for vaccinations.
That's not correct. The current policy says that the user groups are responsible for that, and our staff are enforcing that policy.
So when the policy changed, like for example, on Monday there's going to be the mask rule that's removed. Will we be enforcing masks still? Any unit?
Vaccination passport, not masks.
Masks is in the month.
Not masks, vaccination passports, not masks.
Okay.
Masks is end of
I
month,
guess
you're right.
Masks end of the month? Okay.
Yeah.
Vaccinations on Monday.
Vaccination certificate.
Really?
Okay, so here's a good question. Do we follow provincial guidelines or do we have our own?
We follow provincial. We need to follow provincial guidelines.
Oh.
Go ahead, Heidi.
So yeah, you're correct. We do have to follow provincial guidelines. We cannot go less than provincial guidelines, but we can go more. So if the province says that the COVID pass is no longer needed, we can say that it is. So we can always go over and above what the government says, the provincial government. We can never do less.
Okay. So I mean, these are two different things. So what Connor's asking for is that we hold up the facility rental agreements and the town's current COVID-19 policy, and then I think we'll circle back later on and we'll talk about what we want to do moving forward. So as the recommendation for consideration tonight is just the rental agreement and the town's current policy as it stands this very day, February 8th. So anybody mind?
So as it stands right now, I think if we're going above and beyond, and especially because these considerations could change shortly, if the town is going above and beyond and requiring these mandates, I think we need to provide the staff to deal with it, to not put that onto the user groups. Most of the user groups are all volunteer-based organizations already, and they don't have the capacity to deal with that. So if the town's requiring it, the town has to fit the bill for it.
Connor, how long have we been having the user groups provide staff to implement that? Since the beginning of the season, correct?
Yeah, we staff or volunteers on their end that are enforcing that policy, the COVID-19 vaccination verification. But yes, since the beginning of the season.
Okay, and that applies to all municipal buildings, right?
Really, we just have users that are using the Mel Hagland Uniplex, and so it was really just come to light at the Mel Hagland Uniplex. But when it comes to visiting the town office, for example, it would be us.
Our policy covers all municipal buildings, so who checked everyone's vaccine passports tonight here?
I think we all had to provide our vaccination statuses back when we started in September.
Yeah.
So those are all on file. So if that's something that we have that you weren't done, then we have to do that with you as well.
That's before me, I guess. So.
Yeah. Okay, do we have a motion on the table for the recommendation tonight? Obviously, the conversation that's going to happen later will update a policy, but Connor is asking for.
I'll move it.
Okay, can I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, so a motion by Councillor Vederi, seconded by Councillor Hrdisky. All in favor of council's support of the ongoing commitment for the uphold of the facility rental agreement and the town's COVID-19 policy as it stands today.
Aye.
So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion is carried. Thank you, Connor, appreciate that. We're moving on to municipal grants, which is Connor, you as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, just providing updates to the municipal grant for community groups policy that we discussed in our previous meeting. I've made those suggested edits and just sharing it back with the group for final approval.
Is there anybody any questions about the additions that were made and requested? Okay, so just need a motion to approve.
So move.
Seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Clausen, seconded by Councillor Vederi. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. We'll move on to the Tri-Community Afternoon event, which is also, Connor, go ahead.
Thank you. So for this, I'm just looking for your support for the town's partnership with the Lac Orange Indian Band, Air Orange, and as well as the Men of the North group. Looking to put on an event this Saturday as well as next Saturday, so the 12th and the 19th. Tri-Community Afternoon or Family Days at the park, which would involve a number of activities and food for people to participate in and enjoy. The town's commitment for this partnership would require some in-kind services like snow removal if it's on the 19th happening in the town, and providing fire pits to both events, as well as up to and not exceeding $1,000 for renting DJ equipment for both days.
So moved.
It would also, the town's logo and name would be included in the community poster, showing that we are offering our support and partnership in these two events.
Okay, so it's motion by Councillor Clausen. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Any further comments, questions? So just a quick question here, Connor. It's $1,000 for speakers and a DJ rental. Have you guys reached out to the JR to see if they have equipment before you guys go spend $1,000 on this stuff?
No, we reached out to one of the schools and they had some available, but if you're suggesting that we have equipment over at the JR, then I do need to look into that.
Northlands College may also partner with Iona, and they do have equipment.
That's who we've gone with right now, Northlands College, and they do have a fee associated with that.
I know that there's equipment there, I can't be in charge of that, I just want you to, for information's, question?
I guess the motion is that, you know, to approve the $1,000, if something comes available that we don't have to spend it, then
It says up to,
we're
right?
fine.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Connor does have a budget for community events, does he not? So,
Yeah.
Do you have?
That's correct. This would be pulled from our budget, already existing assumed budget for 2022. Really, I'm just looking for our support to commit to a partnership for these two.
Right. So I guess my question is, do we need to even approve this? Like, we can support it, of course, I'm sure we all do. But I'm just wondering, do we need to even give approval if he already has a budget and is working within his budget?
In this instance, one of the events is happening in Air and the other event is here in Patterson Park.
Okay.
So they're not both happening in La Ronge. And so
Okay, so that's why you're seeking approval. Okay, that's perfect, understood.
Got it. Okay, so
That's great.
we'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Yeah.
Okay, the motion is carried. Thanks, Connor.
Yeah, can I just comment?
Yes, please.
I just want to say it's great to see things starting to happen, and I'm happy to see things happening and starting to roll along. So keep it up.
it's gonna be fun. I hope you guys can all make it. Thank you.
Thanks, Connor. Okay, we move on to council portfolios, and I'll hand it over to Heidi to speak about this.
Sorry, guys, hang on.
We gotcha.
Okay, so this comes out of, it's sort of to take place of committee of the whole. It's a way to expedite meetings, it's a way for counselors to have way less time that they have to dedicate to these to the various groups and everything, because you guys are all extremely busy. And it's also a way for one counselor to have the mandate to look after certain areas and liaise with the staff, the appropriate staff member, and then report back to council. So instead of everybody being involved in everything, one counselor would report back to all of council for council's advice. So it's really a way to save up time. And the really great thing about the portfolio system is that it really helps staff, because we've got one person that we can call up who will help us when we've got questions and we're not sure what direction we should go. We don't have to wait for a council meeting. We don't need approval from everybody. We're looking to that counselor with that portfolio to guide us. And then these are just suggestions. I just came up with a whole bunch of stuff and figured that you guys would do what you wanted with that. And the reason that I kind of put people with a portfolio that might seem a little bit different, the idea behind that is that you're coming in with a really fresh perspective, and you might think of things that a person who's been working with that group for a long time may not think of. So it's all about the fresh perspective, as opposed to the thing that you like or are good at.
So I have a question for you. Does any concern come into place about breaching our one employee policy with this type of interaction?
Super good question. You can go through council with this, but the understanding would be that you would work with the appropriate manager. So it would still be at the management level, and you can go through the CAO if you want, but this is a way to expedite it. So if I was to stay in La Ronge, you could ask me, hey, can I talk to Brianna about this? And I would go, of course, and I don't need to be involved, because as you know, when information gets filtered down, it can get diluted. I don't have a problem with you going straight to the staff member, because there's an understanding that it is only for this, and you're not giving direction to the staff. It's kind of the reverse. The staff is asking you for help. You're not telling the staff what to do. They're coming to you for guidance.
I think this is a good idea, Heidi, and I really like it, and I'm definitely willing to try it out. My only concern is with the full-time CAO position. Are we wise to change some of these things before that individual is in place?
Well, you can change I would say that, you're putting me on the spot here. I would suggest that if this is the direction you wanna go, to adopt it now. If this isn't the direction that you wanna go, then, you know, obviously just defeat the, or you don't have to defeat it, just don't make a recommendation. So it's really up to you. I personally would do it now because the new CEO is gonna have a lot on his plate. And it's gonna take him a while to get to know you guys and to get to know the town. You know, we have to remember that he's coming in fairly green.
I don't think I really agree with fragmenting council. And that's the whole thing about, you know, people going outside of council and working on their own initiative. And I think that was the whole purpose of having, you know, committees of whole discussions and bringing topics in and discussing it as a council. And to me, I would rather, you know, this is supposed to be a you know, committee the whole meeting. Now it's a regular meeting. We're losing out on that dialogue that we were creating, moving along, and now we're going to get councillors going out on different directions and coming in. I think we need to work together as a whole council. That's my take anyway.
Yeah, you still would be working together as a whole. It would be one councillor bringing everything to council. If a decision has to be made, it still goes in front of all of council. So you still are working together, but this way we don't have to wait for a council meeting. Staff doesn't have to wait. And you know, honestly, this portfolio system, I've seen it work really well in a lot of communities. And very rarely does a staff member go to the councillor other than to update them so that the councillor can update council as a whole. It's not huge. So for instance, if we were building a brand new water treatment plant or something like that, then there would be a lot more involvement and a lot more reporting back to council. But when it's business as usual, there's not a whole bunch of involvement that needs to go on.
So this a portfolio system or assigning different roles, different portfolios to different councillors. When we were going to like committee of the whole and just board appointments and things like that, I was more in favor of staying with portfolios because I see the benefit of them, and you know, being able to have a bit of focused expertise and understanding the background of certain municipal functions and how they translate to the council table, and to be able to be more in depth, have a more in-depth understanding of those issues and matters, and be able to bring them to the council table and have a discussion among council that's informed, focused, and concise to those issues, and then it generates a better conversation at the council table. So I understand that. I can see the hesitancy, if I can speak frankly, may be stemming from a lack of trust among councillors, and I think that's why we went to that system, is to build the trust so that we're all dealing with the same issues at the table, and nobody is appearing to or creating the perception that they're working behind the scenes and, you know, taking actions that have upset the apple cart in the past. So there's advantages and disadvantages, and I would like to be able to, you know, move forward with that blanket trust that each councillor would handle a portfolio in a manner that we can all have faith in and everything. But is our council at that point? And forgive me if it feels like I'm airing dirty laundry, but this is the thing, is we all have perspectives. We came on at this table, a lot of us running on some of the same issues of transparency, right? So building that trust, I don't know what that looks like, if it does involve a portfolio system or not. And that's a. I'll leave it with you folks if you want to comment on that.
Well, you know, I'd be more in favor if you had, you know, like ad hoc committees or something, you know, we had maybe 2 or 3 people together, given a certain area where you could actually, you know, debate and come up with something, some valuable information to bring to the rest of council. But just a one person just doing a bunch of research, and to me, I just don't, I'm not buying into it, not tonight anyway.
Yeah, this is a struggle for me because it just sort of, I feel like opens up the doors that we've kind of like, the structures that we've already put in place, have been working really hard, but I can also understand that if there's frustrations, if things take a really long time to get stuff done. So for me, I'm willing to try anything new, of course, because if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, then we can always revert back to what we were doing. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused because there's been points where I've been told not to talk to staff. So, you know, why am I going to go into this, right? You know, because I'm an emotional person. I do stuff based on emotion sometimes, which I'm working on. But yeah, if I feel real motivated about something, I don't let go, and that's my problem, right? And I fight about it, and I argue, and I just can't see this benefiting a person like myself. Not that it won't benefit anybody else, and if we have to go ahead and do it, well, I'll do it, but I'm just, myself, I'm not in favor at this time moving forward with this.
I want to go to Councillor McPhail, Councillor Reese. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Well, I think that it would be, I think we should give it a chance, see how it goes, give us a time frame of a few months to see how it goes. I know it's kind of late in the game to be changing things, like we're almost halfway through our terms, right? We're all pretty dedicated to whatever it is that we're involved in. There have been some changes, but I think it's worth a shot. I honestly do, because it's going to allow people to have a direct contact person. And I'm just happy I'm not the person that's going to be the public works person because of the snow complaint. So, you know, that's, because right now the snow complaints, they go to all of us, right? But if we had a point person, that would help my life. No, okay, but all kidding aside, on a more serious note, I think it is worth a shot. Yeah, like I like that idea, because otherwise staff are waiting for our next meeting to bring it to all of us. Whereas this way, we can get more immediate response and more immediate feedback, and then we can bring it back to the main table as an information piece, if that's the intent of this.
Let's just bring it to Councillor McPhail and then we'll circle back. Councillor McPhail, do you have any thoughts?
I do. I think that going to a portfolio model where town council or a committee of councillors would be a place for people to have a contact point at the council table, unless there is really strict terms of reference and guidelines as to what you can and cannot, you know, determine at that level, and knowing the trigger points of when it can't be decided on to a council member, I think would be a first step if we were ever to look at this. But I think that we've made clear indication, and best practices are showing that governance is decided by the board of directors as a whole rather than a committee of or whatnot. We have had in previous years, I know that when I first was elected to council, we had the finance committee, the governance committee, the HR committee, and we eventually elected to move into this committee of the whole to alleviate the pressures of having, you know, separate meetings. That, once again, if there's something that is development related, and you also need to have a contact person with somebody that might be related to public works because of how this might impact the public works department, and then it's like you're diving really deep into some operational policies and whatnot. And I really think that if we are reaching our capacity to be able to do quick policy decisions, that we allow a little bit more permissiveness in our internal policies to give some freedom to staff to be able to make those calls. And we would have to wear that shirt, obviously, at council levels, that if somebody made a decision that we don't necessarily agree with as a council as a whole, but we've given the authority to do so, then we have to defend our staff at that point. But to me, if there's an issue with not getting things done quick enough, it's going to either have to relate to policy or building up our human resource staff or capacity within the office to make sure that we can provide that high level of service when necessary.
So what if Councilor Bouchard, then I'll come to you.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
You know, well, and see, I look at my list, for example, and so I could have pretty much a meeting every couple nights with individuals, and I personally, I would rather have a special meeting called if there was a question, than to bog myself down with, it looked like a plethora of work. You know, when you look at liaison with health authorities, local personnel, ambulance services, and make recommendations to council on health matters and future plans. Environmental concerns, air quality, water quality, work with community, develop plans for senior needs, family needs, disabled needs, meet with the fire department and make recommendations to council including funding, training, equipment needs, review all matters related to emergency management including safety policies and procedures, risk assessment, emergency plan and RCMP and policies. I work full time, so that's a lot.
And I hear you.
And plus, I do sit on other, you know, committees in this community as well, right, already, so.
Heidi, I just have another question for you, because something that's been brought up already is that notion of transparency, that we've really been driving home since most of us did run on that. How does that sort of come to play here? And then my second part of that is, if you have a person who's in charge or it's in their portfolio, right, and they think that this is the way it should be driven, in the direction it should be driven, but yet, and then a staff member does all this work, yet it comes to the table, and that's not the will of council. Does that not waste the staff's time if that's not the council table's wishes?
So yes and no. Every time that we do a staff report to council, we go in with full understanding that it could be defeated at the table, and that what staff suggests and what in our training and in our level of expertise, what we believe is a good way to move forward, often fails at the council table. That's just part of the job, and like I myself never take it personally, and my job is to teach the rest of staff not to take it personally. So that's just part of being a municipal employee. And as far as transparency goes, it's the job of the portfolio holder to make sure that council is aware if there are any emerging issues. And I think that what I have to really stress is that this is meant to be less work, not more work. You can take every topic that's on that list right now and tell me, what is your involvement with it now? Because if you don't have any involvement with it now, or very little, that will stay the same. So not much of that way will change. It's just that you're more siloed, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Got it.
You know, but if there is a big issue coming up, then you can report it to council and you can give the heads up, because you are more in the know with your portfolio than as a committee of the whole or around the council table, because you would be reported to a little bit more with the intent that you report to council. Like, this council doesn't do councillor reports. A lot of agendas you'll see where it's the councillors that do roundtables and you're to go around and tell everybody what you've been up to. This would be the taking the place of that and of the committee of the whole. And I'm fine with, if what you're doing works, like, don't think I'm pushing this, I'm just trying to explain it. If what you're doing now works, great. This is just something to try.
Gotcha.
That's it.
I want to put a motion on the floor that we table this to our next committee of the whole meeting for further discussion and consideration.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Can I modify that motion? What's the procedure to do that?
You can amend it.
Amend the motion to table it until our full-time CAO is in place.
Do I have a seconder?
And
okay,
the reasoning for that, sorry, is I've seen a few administrators, and every time a new administrator comes in, they wanna change something like this, and I don't think it would be wise to change this until that person is in place.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a seconder for the motion to
I'll
amend?
second.
Okay,
Amend.
okay, so we'll vote on the amendment first, so all in favor, say aye. Alright. Councillor Reese and Councillor McPhail, are you in favor? Okay, and all opposed say nay. Okay, so the amendment is carried, so it's now tabling to the next committee of the whole once the new CEO starts.
The amended motion, yeah.
Yeah, so all in favor of amending and tabling until the new CEO starts, which will be after March 14th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you, Heidi. We'll move on to the airport call out fees.
I can take that if you want, Paul.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there was a change with Transport Canada regulations, and they're telling certified airports now, which L'Orange is a certified airport, that they must have an operator in attendance at the airport at all times for surface condition reports to be valid. So if an aircraft comes in beyond our regular work hours, they have to send an operator back to the airport just to do the condition report.
Sorry, can I just give you a part about it? I'm gonna actually call conflicts just because it can affect a little bit. So I'll pass the floor to Councillor to Deputy Mayor.
So they need to have an operator on boots on the ground for those reports to be valid. And also if there was snow removal that had to happen, say a flight's coming in at, doesn't matter what time, 7 o'clock after the business hours, and there's 2 inches of snow on the runway and the pilot requests that the snow be cleared, then that's where the operator time comes into place. So that flight, whether it was a private or a commercial or any kind of flight other than emergent flights, would be charged for, it's basically 3-hour call out of our staff member. And if they have to work for more than 3 hours, then an extra hour is $52.50. It was discussed at the airport advisory committee that potentially we would put that onto medical flights or emergent flights as well, but only depending if that fee would go back to a level of government, if it wasn't borne on that actual emergency itself.
So if somebody, non-emergency flight comes in after hours, are they responsible for paying this
Yeah,
fee?
that's exactly what this is asking for.
So
Just to cover the cost, and it's not charging for the equipment or for anything like that, it's just to
Their own
recover,
cost, yeah.
our cost for that input.
Staff, yeah.
That's all it's for, so.
And it says right here that the medical emergency fee shall not be applied.
Yeah, that's right, and that was something that the advisory board wanted to revisit, but we're just looking for more information to see where that fee would be applied, who would essentially be paying it. So for right now, if there's a medevac comes in at 2 a.m. and we've got to send somebody out to clean snow, the town just covers it, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it is right now.
Okay. Any questions of the report?
Yeah, I'm just curious, has there been a comparison done, because our airport is one of the busiest airports in the province, has there ever been an exploration into having airport fees, like just the general airport fees, user fees, to cover 24-hour service there?
Yes and no. It depends on how that structure works, and we do it very similar to almost every other airport in the province. But depending, like there's landing fees, so everybody pays a certain landing fee, whether you're a private user, a commercial user, or the government doing firefighting services.
That would cover their service for regular hours then?
For regular hours, yeah.
But if it's
This is over and above. And it's a new requirement that Transport Canada just brought in the spring of 2021. So our airport manager has already modified their hours of work to cover when most of the scheduled flights are with the current carriers out there. And this is just to cover the cost of our staff.
Following up from that, what is the demand? Like, how often does this happen? Do we have an idea? approximately? Is this a rare thing or is this a fairly frequent?
It happens,
Yeah.
definitely.
Especially
I
with
think it's
medical.
just
Yeah.
cost recovery as
Mostly
opposed to
medical
just, you know,
Yeah.
just,
is the late ones.
Yeah.
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and again, my next question is so they're going to be looking into the medical fee and who will be paying that if we.
That's right, that was asked to be put on the next
For the
board
next
advisory agenda. There just needed to be some more information and we didn't have that at the time. so-
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you don't want a person, like myself or whatever, you know, all of a sudden getting this huge bill or whatever, right? Yeah, I get it.
So I guess I'll make a motion to approve the proposal from the airport advisory committee for the implementation of call out fees as follows. We won't read that whole thing, but
Okay, and is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconder Ryan? I'll call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Can somebody turn off the mic? It's really hard to hear some of you. I have my volume maxed on my computer, but thank you.
Is that good?
Better, much better. Thank you.
Okay, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, motion is carried.
if he's declaring conflict for airport, this next one will be as well.
No, we'll have to sit down.
Colin, the next one is about appointing airport advisory committee members.
Mayor Tishniak?
Yes, I'll declare conflict on that too.
Okay, I'll take my shirt back.
I can speak to this too if you'd like, Councillor Herdisky.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is just something that has to happen every year to reappoint all the members to the airport advisory committee. So two council members are already appointed, myself as chairperson and Councillor Ruiz as the alternate. So this is reading to reappoint the following members for SPSA: Peter Boniface, private user Ivan Robertson, Chamber of Commerce appointee Graham Watt, knowledgeable user Kadir Trelop, NAV Canada Dan Boyer, commercial hangar tenant Pat Campling, and newly appointees will be for the ATB tenant Christy Knight, and as a knowledgeable user Bob Gertson.
So is that the same number of members on the board?
Correct, yeah, and
Yeah.
the two new ones are Christy Knight and Bob Gertson. Everyone else was on last year already, so.
Yeah, okay. Okay, motion to approve that.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Seconder the motion? Seconder,
Second.
Councillor Bashar? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Okay, motion is carried. Okay, I just want get it in there. We're looking at getting conflict for that.
Okay. May I have the chair?
We turn the chair to start for real.
All right, moving on to financial statements and updates, budgetary control item report for 7.1. And is there anybody, so is this something that you're now on top of and then you're taking over? So awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Trevor this evening? No?
Easy peasy.
I'll move that the budgetary
Getting there.
control report be accepted as presented.
Seconded?
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Clausen, seconded by Councillor Lettery. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion's carried. Move on to list of accounts for approval and check reconciliation. Any questions from the table on what's presented?
I'll move that we approve check registry.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Councillor Lettery, seconded by Councillor Herdisky. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. All right, we move on to new business and.
Can I ask a question first?
Yes, go ahead.
There's a fee for MPE engineering prelim for wastewater treatment plant assessment, do we have any idea when that assessment will be back, Heidi? Like when we'll see the assessment for the wastewater treatment plant?
Ken just raised his hand, he can probably answer that.
End of March.
Sorry.
Yeah, end of March is what it's supposed to be done by.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, moving on to 10.1, which is records for destruction, as presented in this report from Amanda, and just seems like it's pretty straightforward what needs to be.
They're all over there.
Oh, good visual, excellent. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
I'll move that we destroy the appropriate documents.
Okay. There's a full motion here. Destroyed in accordance with Schedule A, and destruction is a bylaw, but I think that's can kind of cover it, I guess. So seconder to Councillor Radisky's motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councillor Radisky, seconded by Councillor Veddery. All in favor say, oh, hold on.
Viviana had her hand.
Sorry, go ahead, Viviana.
No, I was trying to second it, but I didn't unmute, but I am in favor.
Okay, so we'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion's carried. And last but not last but not least, we've got a few additions to the agenda here. So 10.2 is formally going to be enacting Trevor as our CFO, and I believe that there's signing instructions as well that need to be specific in this resolution,
We're
correct?
doing that with Lyle.
Oh, it's
Signing authority.
when we do Lyle's?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we not want to do him first, or no?
That was the instruction of Heidi.
Go ahead.
The only reason that I suggested doing them together is because it's just easier for the banking end of it, because they require all the sets of the minutes and everything, and if we do everybody together, remove me, it's kind of a one-stop shop as opposed to doing everything in duplicate.
Okay.
Yeah, I can vouch for that, cause when we do board renewals, we all have to go in, and if somebody changes,
Oh,
we
I
all
see.
gotta go in again, so it makes
Got it.
sense.
And they can't enact it until those minutes are accepted as well.
Got it. Okay, so we'll just need a motion.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Hold on, I have to, go get the door. I'm staying in a tea church out of town, so hold on.
Be
Excuse me
careful.
for 2 minutes.
I like the picture behind you there, Colin.
We lost the queen.
Yeah, no queen or.
So wait, I'm sorry, where did Viviana go?
She had to go answer the door.
I'm sure.
Oh.
Carry on.
Yeah, we'll carry on. So we just need a motion just to formally approve Trevor as our CFO.
Also move.
Okay,
I
second.
thought we did that already, actually, last meeting.
Did we do that, Heidi? Can't remember. No, we didn't. Okay, so seconder. Okay, so motion by Councillor Clausen, seconded by Councillor Veddery. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion's carried. Move on to 10.3, which is a conversation about the municipal COVID restrictions that are coming to change here very shortly. Councillor Clausen, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about it. I'm just kind of wondering if our guidelines were following provincial, or when those would change, or if we want to have some conversation around that, I guess.
I'm kinda curious too, what we're gonna be doing in like the town office and Uniplex and all that, because, you know, if we, you know, I like probably Council Clausen's kinda wondering who's that's gonna be put onto at the rink again, right? Because the kickback is gonna be, well, it's not mandatory anymore, so why do we have to do it, right?
Right.
And I believe that our policy is, I don't know if there's an end date to our policy. I don't think there is. Maybe you can
I
answer
don't
that.
believe so.
Heidi says no. So I wonder if we should do something different, maybe like that the town of Orange policy follow provincial guidelines or something, because then we don't have to change that every time there is a change, whether it's for more restrictions or less, or it doesn't really matter. If we did something like that, then we wouldn't have to revisit it every time that there is a change.
Right. So yeah, I mean, what is everybody's feelings on this? I'm sure that this is an interesting conversation to have right now.
You know, the only thing is, you know, once, if we exceed the provincial guidelines, then, you know, this, whether, you know, what weight does it carry for the public and how do we enforce it? And, you know, I think maybe we could say we encourage people to wear masks even past the end date, you know, like on the 28th of February when the province says you no longer have to wear face masks. But maybe in some of our facilities we can have signs that say we encourage you to continue to wear until such a time, you know.
I think everybody should have a choice, you know, but, you know, for example, some businesses might even say you have to wear a mask to go in there to go shopping, right? I'm not saying co-op's gonna, but they might do that, right? So we're gonna have to follow that. So it is kind of up to us what we do, you know, for our areas of business. And, you know, personally, I believe it should be up to the person. A lot of people are still gonna wear masks, and that's great if they want to, and if others don't want to, then, you know, that should be up to them as well, personally.
I just want to get a little feeling from everyone, and then we'll circle back. Do you have any thoughts?
I look after the public interest, and in my view, the public interest is to remain with restrictions in municipal facilities.
Councillor Reese, Councillor McPhail.
Along those same lines, I think that we should follow provincial guidelines, and I think that those provincial guidelines should come with the encouragement piece. That as a town of Orange, we do take a stance to continue precautionary measures as deemed fit by each individual. Because we can't tell the whole town that you have to do this. I know that we can mandate it in our own buildings, but I think we need to send that message out that people have a choice, but we do encourage them to still take precautionary measures. So I think we should abide by provincial guidelines with that encouragement.
Councillor McPhail.
I will restate what I said since I want to say January of 2020. I am not a virologist, I am not a doctor, I'm not a medical health professional, I'm not a healthcare worker. I don't know what is in the best interest of public health because I'm not the expert in that. If you wanted me to tell you how to install a phone line, I could do that. But I can't tell you how to stop COVID-19. We've been told what the best public health guidelines are based on what has been shared through us through provincial models and healthcare workers. And I would put it forward that we talk to our independent local medical health officers before we make any decisions. I know that when we have had the provincial government appearingly slow playing some of the measures that could have been taken in northern Saskatchewan, we had the medical health officers, mainly Dr. Kaketla, come to our council meeting, discuss the measures that we could take locally to help battle COVID-19. I think that that's something that we should follow suit on. In all matters is these folks are the ones that are providing the recommendations to Dr. Shahab and Regina, who's ultimately speaking to the Premier, and I think if we can have the medical health officer attend our next meeting and give us an opportunity to bounce some of the questions that we have often, rather than trying to make an active public health policy, but none of us are public health experts, I think is our best option, is making sure that our experts are at the table helping us make those decisions. So I would prefer to table this discussion to our next meeting with instruction to invite Dr. Kaketla to the meeting.
And just as a point of information, so the last information that was given from Dr. Kaketla was on January 12th, and they felt that it was still necessary to keep all the precautions, or not the precautions, all the protocols in place to limit travel, and this was on, so this is just under 3 weeks ago, so we don't have an update from what they feel is necessary. So I actually will kind of agree with Councillor McPhail moving forward, because yeah, I'm not an expert in this field at all, as much as I also want to get back to normal life too. The only thing that we know that is an issue for us here is that as early as it's Monday, right? Monday the 14th?
Tuesday, I
Or
think.
Tuesday the 14th? Won't be before our next meeting. So we have to decide as a council whether we are going above provincial guidelines or we're sort of staying with the same until our next meeting.
And that's,
Well, and again, none of us here are medical professionals, and the province is guided by those professionals, and I put the motion on the table that the town of Orange follow provincial guidelines.
Okay, I have a seconder.
I'll second it.
Okay, I just do want to put another point of interest on here as well. This email that was also shared from Dr. Kaketla on January 12th also states that Northern health officials were not contacted for any of the conversations that are being done by the chief medical health officer. So again, that's where, just as a point of information, they're not being consulted in the decisions for our area.
None of the
province as a
Northern
whole.
health officers were.
No, which is a little bit concerning and troubling. So go ahead, Councillor McPhail.
Just, I guess a point of interest, from the motion that you've put forward, Councillor Clausen. If we are following provincial guidelines, and that's like to vote negatively against that would mean that we're voting against provincial laws at that point. I'm wondering if the intention behind your motion is to remove the municipal COVID policies, which would then de facto make it just provincial guidelines. Because that's essentially what we'd be doing by supporting that motion, is just removing all COVID provincial or all municipal COVID related policies.
What my motion is meant is to follow the provincial guidelines so that we don't have to adapt our municipal guidelines every time there's a change.
We don't have a choice but to follow provincial guidelines.
No, but we can go above and beyond, and what I'm saying is instead of having extra municipal boundaries on, I guess, just to follow the provincial guidelines.
So to reiterate what I said earlier, effectively what we'd be doing is removing municipal policies, which would mean that
that's
by the motion, we would just follow provincial guidelines.
Correct.
Sorry, I'm just gonna struggle a little bit with navigate. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Reese, and then I'll.
No, I just want to say, to add to that, I think, like, I agree with what Matt's saying, but I think we still need to encourage residents to remain vigilant. Like, we can't just say, okay, we're doing what the province is doing, you know, everybody do whatever you want. I think we still have the ethical responsibility to pass on the message that people need to remain vigilant and take whatever precautions they deem necessary. Like, we need to have that as part of our messaging.
So
if somebody chooses to continue to wear a mask to the grocery store, fine, right? Like, they can, and they should if that's what they feel they need to do.
Absolutely.
If they're not going to allow visitors into their business or into their home without a vaccine passport, then they have the prerogative to do that. We should allow people to, if they want to go above and beyond, they can. So we can just like encourage additional precautions as individuals choose. And somebody might choose to not do any of those things.
Absolutely.
So I just have a question, because the policy that we have in place now was that just basically was making sure and well, we follow the provincial guidelines as it states, right? But then we have an additional policy in place for proof of vaccination, within making sure that all of our employees and staff are also vaccinated, right? So does this new information that starts on Monday, does that remove all that? Or is that something that we did on our own? That is not above and beyond. Sorry, go ahead.
you know, and I'll just use the ring for example. It came through the provincial government that any kind of a public place, you had to show that you're vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
Or proof of, you know, COVID test. So that being said, it wasn't us who implemented it, was the province. So if we, you know, take this down, we're just, it's whatever the province wanted. We didn't implement anything extra other than our staff being vaccinated, right?
We were we were actually thinking about implementing something, but then the province came forward with those restrictions, and we just followed them beyond that, but we didn't, I think we were talking about writing a letter and taking.
Yeah.
But nothing transpired because the province did actually start to put those restrictions in place.
Right.
So we've got nothing in place right now on municipal level.
So
I was just gonna say, I believe the date that we have on the policy for the day you had to be vaccinated by, I believe that was provincial.
Got it.
That was a
Okay.
restriction, so
that's-
we made a
that's-
policy based on their guideline.
Right, so that's our own bylaw that we would have to abolish then.
Policy, yeah.
And that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
instead of having our own, just follow the provinces, and then we don't have to remove, we don't have to go back and forth all the time, it's just simpler.
Right.
And we can absolutely encourage, as Viviana or Councillor Reese said,
Mm-hmm.
welcome all community members to, if they wanna take extra steps to make themselves feel safe, then by all means.
I think this council is gonna be tasked though, that, you know, they're gonna have to revisit then their employee rules, cause I know as an employee you have to be vaccinated, are we gonna, you know, continue down that road? You know, vaccination with that, we'll have to come up with a policy for that.
I think just follow the provincial
Or
guidelines
provincial.
across all of our COVID stuff, and then we don't have to deal with any of it.
Right.
So Matt, did you wanna make a like friendly amendment to your motion that we repeal all municipal COVID-19 bylaws?
Repeal municipal ones, sure.
Yeah, cause that's essentially what it is, cause then we revert
It was-
to provincial anyways.
The motion is just that we would follow only the provincial guidelines.
I know, we have a bylaw in place though,
I
so
know.
we'd have to abolish it, right?
That's right.
So, yeah. So is that what you're
Sure.
friendly, okay. So we'll call the question on.
Is there a seconder to the motion?
Yes, yeah,
Councillor
Councillor
Hrdlicki.
Hrdlicki did.
Okay, I will request that this vote be recorded.
Okay, so, it's because the vote's been requested, I'll go around the table, so Councillor Vedri,
In favor.
Councillor Clausen,
In favor.
Councillor McPhail,
Opposed?
Councillor Councillor Reese,
In favor.
Councillor Hrdlicki,
I'm in favor.
Councillor Sharp, sorry.
It's okay, I'm opposed.
Okay, and I'm also opposed. So the motion is carried 4-3, and we'll move on. Okay, we move on to 10.4, which is snow removal around fire hydrants. Go ahead, Councillor Clausen.
Okay, so I talked to Ken earlier about this and just wanted to put it on the official agenda just so that it was noted. We talked about snow around fire hydrants, and there has been work to clean that snow around them. Ken said he did them approximately 2 weeks ago. But I think as part of our snow removal policy that there should be a piece added to that policy so that it's definitively planned when those are done, in accordance with opening our main veins first and then our residential, and then have an actual plan to make sure these fire hydrants are clear of all snow and easy for firefighters to get to and operate. It is a concern of the fire chief as well, and he had brought it up with previously, and there just hasn't been a plan put in place. So I think if we adopted an amendment to our snow policy to address this, I think it would be a very good idea. In talks with the fire chief, he indicated that in the guidelines and in the laws for firefighting, if a community doesn't have access to water, we can be held hugely responsible if there's a loss of building or, heaven forbid, a loss of life, because they couldn't get to water in timely fashion. So I think it's something very important to add to our snow removal policy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, I know other communities as well are struggling with that. I know on one street, I just seen one showed up here that's been buried all winter, you know, and like you said, it's just a liability just waiting to happen, so I'm sure that the fire chief has sent that message out to all the partners to ensure that you know, that happens. I think it's important to have it entrenched in our policy to make sure it's done on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and Mr. Turnbull knows to do this now, but the next manager may not have that, so that's why I think it should be in a policy as well.
Okay, and is that something that's being spoke about at the board level too, so it's shared with other communities?
It hadn't been.
No, not yet, okay.
But for our community, he did indicate that the La Indian Land and the Orange do quite a good job of maintaining that, so he wasn't as concerned there, and nor do we have a voice there, but around this table, we certainly do for our community, so.
Okay. Great.
So I guess I would just direct administration to draft an amendment to the snow removal policy to include a plan for fire hydrant snow cleaning.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Call the question, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, the motion's carried. We move on to 10.5, which is municipal revenue sharing. Go ahead, Councillor.
Heidi, have you submitted the forms for municipal revenue sharing?
They, we have been in contact with them. They sent us the revised forms this week, and we have been in constant touch with them, so we're all over it. They have not been, so one of the issues that we need every single councillor's disclosure statement, and I'm sorry I'm not in the office right now, but I know a couple of you handed them in to me, but I don't have everyone's. So it might be easier if everybody, tonight, I believe Trevor has copies of them. I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot, Trevor, and if we could get everyone to fill them out really quickly, then we can submit it ASAP.
Okay, great. And we do need an official motion, I do believe, Heidi, so that does apply. So I'll make that motion that the declaration for MRS eligibility is filed, and that the town has, number one, submitted 2020 audited financial statement, has submitted, number two, has submitted the waterworks reporting to Ministry of Government Relations. Number three is considered in good standing in regards to education property tax, and that the town of La Ronge has a council procedure bylaw, an employee code of conduct, and elected have completed and filed their public disclosure statements, and further direct administration to file that declaration.
Does second it?
I'll second that.
Just really quick, do we know who has not done the declarations yet?
Well, like you said, Heidi is not here, so I don't have access to all the files.
Oh, okay.
We have found all of the initial declarations, but every year there's also annual declarations that you just check off that say nothing's changed.
Right, Heidi, which ones, who has not submitted, or does anyone at this table know they're not submitted? Because I know that I've submitted.
I might know,
But
I
I think
don't know.
what they're saying is that
We
that
could
needs
just
to go in
check.
right now, so they just need us to do it again,
Yeah.
if we've done it.
Just make
And
sure.
we
it's
used to,
Yeah, no, I just want to make, because this
Yeah.
is, we've already talked about this twice already before, so we need to make sure we get
I
those
know in the
done.
past they used to, when they come due, they were put in front of us at the at a meeting
Yeah,
table.
yeah, the annual one.
Well, because these were all in the inboxes as well,
Where's
right?
the-
Those are the ones that were left in our boxes to pick up,
Oh,
and this has been
Correct.
twice now that we've asked, correct?
Correct.
So do you happen to know that who has not submitted those yet, just off the top of your head?
I have.
I'm sorry I don't.
No, okay, alright. So we'll call the question, and if you guys can just make sure, just have a look at your boxes, they might be in there, so.
I can speak to that, sort of.
Yeah.
We have all of your original ones, so if anything's changed, we need you to let us know for the amendment. So for tonight, we have the annual one printed for everybody.
Yeah.
So that's different to what.
So if we can
I
just
thought
make
the
sure
box
that
originally.
everyone signs.
I'm gonna go over
Exactly,
it.
tonight, this one needs to be
Okay,
signed, yeah.
great, we'll call the question, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried. We'll move on to 10.6, which is the Tourism Visitor Center. Go ahead, Viviana, or Councillor Reese, sorry.
Sorry, I had to turn my video unstable internet connected. Transfer information, Colin and, sorry, your worship and Ms. Wrights are aware of this information. We have a quarterly commitment to Woodland and Waterways Tourism Regional Visitor Center of $6,250 every quarter is what I was informed of this evening. They have not received the installment, which would have been due January. So I think that needs to be an information piece that needs to be looked into by administration and make sure that we're meeting our commitments in that regard.
Okay, I see that this email came through at 6 o'clock tonight, so, and I know that Trevor, you're on that, so, you'll be able to look into it.
I got it.
probably, right? Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
So I think that that's just an interest piece rather than an actual resolution I think for that. And that's it for the agenda. Is there anything else here that we are missing before we go into camera? Okay, great.
Just one thing, there was conversation with, both of our neighbors, Lochrange Indian Band and Air-Ronge, and an Air-Ronge councillor had invited me to a meeting about camera systems that they had initiated, municipal camera systems. Talked to Ms. Frank about it, and since then there's been a couple meetings, and just to make everyone around the table aware, we've met with one councillor from Air-Ronge and one councillor from Lochrange Indian Band and a service provider. That service provider has been asked to put together a package for each of our 3 communities. It was recommended that we look at some sort of a package altogether, although they would be invoiced separately, but that provider has been asked to provide a plan and a price breakdown and quotation to offer camera services in our 3 communities. So that hasn't come through yet, but once it does, it'll come back to this table to review and all sorts of different questions, and that provider could possibly provide a bit of a platform so that we can understand what it's all about and answer questions around privacy and everything else that I'm sure everyone will have. So,
okay,
just so we're aware that that is happening.
Great, thank you. Okay, so that moves us to in camera. So it reads that the council enter a closed meeting to discuss issues which are exempt from public discussion under the Local Authority Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act and the Northern Municipalities Act. That we go into camera at 8:53. Do I have
Also move.
a second here? Okay, so a motion by Councillor Bashar, seconded Councillor Vedri. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Okay, we move to in camera.
Motion for recess.
Yes, that's motion. That's recess for 5